Welcome to the name game. Workout number 71 is Hundo. For time, we have 300 double unders, 200 calorie row, 100 calorie AirBike. All the normal standards apply, and you may set up your floor however you please. Let's bring in Coach Chris. We'll talk about strategy.
First impressions is it's going to be long, and it's a very aerobic piece, right? Meaning it's all body weight or cyclical machines, right? So you're not getting necessarily the heart rate spike from the elevation on burpees or having to brace on a barbell. And so this is a really good kind of long aerobic tester to work on pacing and breathing. I know we kind of discussed before hopping on some pacing on the cyclical movement, so I'll let you kind of tap into that. But in terms of the double unders, I know we kind of mapped out a couple of different avatars because 300 is a good chunk. And so we kind of looked at it as someone who has really good capacity and really good skill is going to just go, see how many they can get in a chunk. And then if they trip, they'll take a quick rest and then jump right back up. If someone has good skill, but not great capacity. So someone who is like, oh yeah, I never trip on double unders less than 100 reps or 100 reps or less.
Hyperventilating when they get there.
Exactly. And then it's like a train wreck after that. That's the person who I think would pay off by doing purposeful breaks in the action.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I know when I hit 150 reps, like my heart's beating out of my chest, and it's like, and if I have to do more than that, then it's like, oh, I'm doing tens, right? Then it's like, okay, maybe I'll break it every 50, right? And just to use that as an example. And then someone who doesn't have good capacity, and then someone who doesn't have good skill on the double unders, whether they have good capacity or not good capacity, it's kind of irrelevant.
What's the time cap?
Yeah, exactly. So if your skill is not there on double unders, you're just going to go until you trip. And in addition to maybe begging your coach to give you a time cap or some sort of difference there. But yeah, if your skills like, I know I'm going to trip at 20, I know I'm going to trip at 30, like it's just a matter of time, then it's just like, all right, just go until you trip, use that as a rest, and then get going again. So those are kind of the different buckets we put people in as far as the double unders are concerned. But if you're someone who has decent skill on double unders, I think the bulk of this is going to be spent on the row and the bike.
Yeah, that was sort of the idea, is like for someone who's proficient at double unders, it's not nearly as much about the double unders, sort of like 333 in regionals, like the three. Well, I guess was it in regionals? I don't know.
Well, they had it at regionals and at the games. So one year they did it at the games.
And then they did it at regionals following on the air runner.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was sort of the idea, is that like, it's like a big number, but like if you're someone who's really good at that, like it's really not that much of the workout.
Sure.
Asterisks, if you're good at double unders. So there's plenty of people who are not good at double unders or maybe aren't good at this many double unders at a chunk, who that could take up just really balloon up all of a sudden. So, for someone, they could probably get 300 done in 3 minutes. And, if you're really good at double unders, that's really not that challenging to be able to do that.
Sure.
And then you're looking at maybe 20 minutes to finish the other two if you're a heavier, bigger athlete. And then you're looking at like a 23-minute workout. If you're someone who is like, man, I'm going to get like 15 to 20 each minute double unders, and then I'm going to be like having to rest and shake it out. And like, that's more than several minutes. Like you're looking at like a 40+ minute workout. So if that is you, like I would say, like, have a game plan of just like trying to stay cool and calm and collected when that's happening, because it's really easy to get really frustrated. Like, I just want to get into the other piece of the workout, and I'm like stuck at like doing all these double unders, and it's frustrating. And it's like, be able to like have some sort of strategy of like, man, if my double unders just aren't there today, like what can I do from like a mental standpoint to like stay engaged in the workout and like not freak out that I'm tripping a lot, and just sort of stick with it.
Yep.
So that's one thing. That's obviously the double unders are an important component of this, especially if you're not good at them. For, let's say at this point, everybody's moved on past that. We kind of broke this into two athletes, an athlete who is heavier and larger in terms of like, just like total body size, but also like limb length. And then we have someone who's lighter and shorter limbs, who's going to have a harder time on the ergs. those two are pretty, dramatically different in terms of the time it's going to take for each of those. Do you want to dive into that quickly, and then you can throw it back to me?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, someone who's a bigger, stronger athlete generally does better on the ergs, right? Because they have more power output per stroke, right? And so the way I kind of broke it down mentally is I looked at it and said, okay, a 200 calorie row, if I were to row 20 calories a minute, right? Which, by the way, if you're not familiar with that, is cooking. Like that's a lot of power in a minute over and over and over again.
Probably at least 1,600 calories an hour.
Yeah. And so if you do that, you're spending 10 minutes on the rower.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, okay, most people are
No
going to
one's
be
going
like,
to be holding that. Yeah.
right. Like that's probably a high level regional games level athlete potentially. So it's like, all right, I know it's going to take longer than that. So you're going to try to settle in for probably about a 15-minute row if you're a decent rower in that category.
Yeah, I would say maybe 12 to 15 minutes. So the way I broke it up in my mind for the row specifically was, if you're rowing about 1,000 calories an hour, you're looking at about 66 calories for 1K. So this is just about 3 times that. So you're looking at right around 3K. 2 minutes for 3K would be 12 minutes. So that's if you're rowing at 1,000 calories per hour. So you might be able to cut that back a little bit, but I would say for, again, a lot of the people who are smaller athletes, this is typically females, so you're going to be probably below that. So
yep. And then you got the bike at the end, again, breaking it down the same way, just to use 20 calories because that's really, really high. That's 5 minutes, right? 10 calories is 10 minutes. And so I would say most your bigger athletes are going to be somewhere in between there, right? Your smaller athletes actually might be hovering around that lower end, especially a small female who's got, the girl in class who has to lower the assault bike all the way down to the 1, you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's going to be tough to hold. So, same thing, you're going to be looking at, if it's 10 calories a minute, that's 10 minutes. If you're doing 20 calories a minute, that's 5 minutes. And most people are going to probably fall somewhere in between there. Maybe, again, if you're a much, much smaller athlete or a lower power athlete, you're probably going to be even a little bit longer than that.
Yeah. Again, the big thing with calories is that if this was something that had multiple rounds in it, you could get a little bit more creative in how you're pacing, especially if it is for calories, because you could try to like sprint it or like at certain, like hit it harder at certain spots to try to make up time or take more transition. But with it being like one steady state effort, it's really just like, your pacing structure is just going to be the same if it was for meters. It doesn't really change it at all. Yeah. So, I mean, I think realistically for smaller, lighter athletes, 10 calories a minute on an assault bike or an air bike is, I think that's probably squarely into where a lot of people are going to be at. And that's like around 55 RPMs. So, yeah, I mean, I think especially after all the other work, if you are feeling like you're, got a lot of CO2 built up in the system and you're like starting to like hyperventilate and like feeling like you can't catch your breath and, basically in pain. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be kind of suffering on the bike rather than like really being able to hammer it unless you played a conservative on the row. So I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think, we've broken it down in each of the chunks, but you also have to obviously, like any workout, look at it as a whole. Right. And so,
Yeah.
some of the pacing might be a little bit slower on each of the sections to make sure you can maintain a better pace through the entirety of it. Right. And so breaking it down so you have an idea of how long it's going to take is important, right? Like the chunks are pretty big, but I think we can all agree a 200 calorie row feels a little bit different than like 200 wall balls or 200 thrusters. You know what I mean? It's different, right? And so you can be more methodical and smooth paced with it. And so it's like, okay, based on how I broke it down, let's say I look at it, it's like, all right, I'm probably going to be somewhere in the 25 to 30 minute range. Approaching your pacing as if it was a 25 to 30 minute workout is going to pay dividends as opposed to, like you said, hammering a portion of it and then just getting to the end and slogging. Because the other thing is we talked about is this is a mental workout as well, right? A 30-minute workout is tough in and of itself, but now a 30-minute workout basically spent on the ergs is for a lot of folks even tougher. So kind of knowing that going into it and pacing that appropriately is gonna be super helpful.
And lastly, we encourage as many people as possible to jump in with you and do these workouts. You've got people who want to throw down with you, by all means, encourage them to do that. However, we want everyone to submit their scores, right? So where you're gonna go to is dwarffitness.com. You'll hit on menu, drop down from the protocol, you'll hit that tab called Name Game, and then you'll go down to the first workout, which should be the newest one, and you're gonna click that little green arrow. There you'll be able to enter your name, also with the workout name. That's important because it tags it so it doesn't get lost in the forum later on. But then you obviously are gonna put your score or your time, and then you'll submit it. If you click on that little number next to it, you're gonna see all the other comments, right? You might actually not be able to view them all. So if you hit view all comments, that's gonna take you down sort of a leaderboard where you get to compare scores. And then also your coach gets to help determine where you stack up versus other competitors to be able to determine your individual weaknesses. This is gonna be super helpful for us, pretty exciting and engaging for you guys. And if you're someone who's watching this, you're not a Dwarf Fitness athlete yet, I'll link to it below, but you can either check out the protocol or one-on-one coaching and we'll reach out, see if you're a good fit. And for everyone, best of luck on the workout.